All right, welcome into yet another edition of the Patriots Beat podcast here on the CLNS Media Network. I am Mike Kadlick from CLNS, joined as always by Alex Barth from 98.5 The Sports Hub. Once again, plenty to get to this week as we preview Patriots versus Jets. The Pats head to the Meadowlands this Sunday to take on the 5-2 Jets from MetLife Stadium. And we'll start with some news. There's plenty of Patriots news, specifically around the quarterbacks, I guess. Plenty of injuries to talk as well. Pats and Jets both sort of banged up. We'll get into some offensive and defensive game plans, see how they might attack this one. Then we'll wrap up with a Boston Sports Minute and some Q&A because we want to hear what you guys have to ask us. But then there's also some breaking Boston sports news that came in today as well. So we'll touch on all that. But first, the news of the week. Reports are that Mac Jones will start on Sunday, according to ESPN's Field Yates. It started as a bit of an outside report, like it was last week. It wasn't really anything internal. It didn't come directly from the team, but I guess I trust Field Yates personally. I know he's been in the building before, and he is also friends with Steve Belichick. So there might be something to that. Today, Bill Belichick was asked about it at his press conference, and once again did not directly call Mac the starter, but said that he's full go this week and should be ready to go. So
no, he did. He did. I don't think he straight up said Mac will be the starter, but somebody, I'll find the exact wording here.
Yeah.
Somebody asked something along the lines of, is the plan for Mac Jones to start on Sunday? And he said that's the case. So the words Mac is the starter.
He's still tiptoeing. He still won't say it. I know it's going to happen.
He did. No, he did. Hang on. I'm trying to find this. Should pull up the transcript instead of my tweet.
Because I think it was Phil Perry who's been on the case this whole time. And
I know what back and forth you're talking about. Hang on, let me pull up the transcript and we'll sort this all out here. Sort through all the we'll sees. So the plan is question. I don't remember who asked this, but so the plan is for him, Jones, to start Sunday. Bill, that's what I just said. He's going to have the full load. Yeah. So that's okay. The words Mac Jones is the starter.
He still doesn't want to say it, Alex.
Leave his mouth, but he answered in the affirmative. The one you're talking about, let me see if I can find this here from Phil. Because this was the next question. I know when it comes to the plans moving forwards, is he able to, and Bill cuts him off. That's where we're at. Okay. So don't give me, I don't want to go through all the hypotheticals. That's not where we're at. We're getting ready for the Jets. That's where we're at, period. Question. You can't say for the whole season? Bill, I can't give you no. You're going to give me a bunch of hypothetical situations. I don't know what those hypotheticals are, so we're not going to get into that. Phil, I'm trying not to ask a hypothetical, but Bill, it's hypothetical. Here we are today. We're practicing for the Jets. It's Thursday, getting ready for the Jets. That's where we are. Anything that happens beyond that, it's not current. I'm not going to get into it. That's as helpful as I can be. So he is, and he said later on too, again, answered in the affirmative when asked if the plan is for Mac Jones start on Sunday.
Yep.
Would not answer a question about Mac finishing the game. He did say Mac will have the full workload, whatever that means. But yeah, I think basically what it is Bill still wants the opening to be able to make the quarterback switch later on. I think Mac is the starter for Sunday. I think that they plan on, if all goes well, having him play the full game. But I don't think Bill is 100% sold on Mac moving forward. I think that door is still a tiny bit open for Bailey Zappi. Now, to what extent? I don't think a lot, but it's there. But I do think that I've seen enough that, Mac Jones is the starter on Sunday. Really the starter, not whatever that was against Chicago.
Even too, because last week, we never really knew, or there was no reports on who was getting first team reps or anything like that. So we didn't really know. And it ended up being that they were both getting them, where the report came out yesterday that Mac got 90% of the first team reps. And it's clear
Bill
that they're ramping
that today.
Yes. And he confirmed that. And so they're ramping him up to start and be the guy, barring, I guess, any unforeseen circumstances, whether that be, he's off the injury report. That's another thing to add. So his ankle is cleared. He's cleared to go. So it looks like Mac has his team back, at least for now. It still feels, again, like maybe a short leash, like maybe, he does not want to give the affirmative that Mac is the starting quarterback of this team permanently. He wants to take this thing week by week, which is not a common thing for Bill Belichick. as we've seen with, Brady and even a guy like Cam Newton in the past. It's Cam's the starter, Tom's the starter, etc. Right. So again, feels like less of coaching malpractice that I kept jarring about is because you know what they said and said it out loud. Mac's our starter, and this is the direction we're going in. So I feel a little bit better about the position today than I did on Tuesday.
I guess I still don't feel great.
Oh no,
but I guess better technically, relatively, sure.
Right. So we'll see. Mac's getting the start anyway. We'll see how that pans out the rest of the way. The other piece of news here, and we had touched on the lack of performance out of Jake Bailey, frankly, this season from a special teams perspective. And looks like the Patriots are bringing in some punters to work out as Jake Bailey continues to struggle. Notably, Jake Julian, who was a guy here during training camp who, Alex, you tracked all his punts over the course of camp. He looked like a decent leg to maybe.
He's got a leg. He's got a leg. I don't know that he's like that upper echelon, but I'd put him in the category of, bigger compared to smaller leg. Sure.
Right. Yeah. So, I mean, no news about
I don't know that he can really control it, but he's got a big leg.
Yeah. So no news about the punters yet, but there's a fire under Jake Bailey's behind as he continues to struggle in the punt game.
Yeah. And I would say rightfully so. And we've got another strong punter draft class coming up, believe it or not. Troy Taylor, Iowa, punt to win. But, the
2023 punters class. Nice.
Mike Reese kind of insinuated something that it could be a workload thing and Bailey might still be hurt. That would be interesting. At this point, though, if he's still hurt, look, I used his injury to excuse away his performance last year. I sat here and did that. I said, he's hurt. He's doing the best he can. If he was that bad, they'd put him on IR. If it's the same injury and now we're into year 2, is it going to get better? This is a lingering, nagging injury. At what point is it chronic and then he just can't do the job anymore? So it's going to be interesting to see how that plays out for sure.
Yeah, we'll see how that goes. But again, punters are here to, push Jake Bailey and hopefully whether it be Jake Bailey or whether it be a practice squad elevation to kind of get him moving in the right direction. Again, no news yet, but there's people in, so Jake Bailey should be on notice. Let's do injuries on our new Injury Thursday segment here because there are plenty of them, especially on the Jets side. The Jets, who, like I said, are 5-2, playing really good football, but lost 2 key pieces to their offense last week in Breece Hall and Elijah Vera Tucker.
And potentially a third, too.
Yes, correct.
Corey Davis, who hasn't practiced.
In Corey Davis. Yeah, so Hall and Vera Tucker definitely out for the season. Hall tore his ACL, Vera Tucker tore his triceps. Corey Davis still in limbo, but was the one Jet who did not participate in practice today. He's kind of turned into Zach Wilson's favorite target over the last 2 years of his Jets tenure. And then some other limited participants were Dwayne Brown, who another person on the offensive line who they're gonna want to keep Zach Wilson upright. Jermaine Johnson, a rookie out of Miami. I have that right? Where'd he go?
Who? Sorry, who is it again?
Jermaine Johnson, the DN.
Yeah,
he was
Florida State. Okay.
Florida State. Okay, yep. Okay,
same right state. Conference, right state.
Yes. And then basically Corey Davis is the big one here. Did not participate. Has turned into Zach Wilson's security blanket favorite target there. So the Jets brought in, as we'll get to when we talk defense, they brought in James Robinson from the Jaguars. Their sort of platoon backup running back who was there with Travis Etienne. He's had a good season. I don't know if he'll play. They haven't really mentioned anything. I'm sure they'll probably try and get him some reps as the 49ers did Christian McCaffrey last week. But Jets are banged up. So any initial thoughts off their injury report?
Yeah, I mean, it's going to be interesting to see what their offense looks like, especially if Corey Davis can't go. Mm-hmm. John Franklin Myers returned to practice today. That's obviously big. He's a very big part of what they do. Quincy Williams returned to practice today. So just kind of watching Corey Davis at this point. I think if they're without him, then that all of a sudden Elijah Moore is really in the spotlight after sitting out the game next week. And I know Robert Saleh said today they're on the same page, but it will be interesting to see that dynamic because that really gets put at the forefront, right? If Corey Davis is out, assuming the Patriots can get a lead in this game and make the Jets throw.
Right. So yeah, that's where the Jets are at. Again, the Corey Davis thing, I mean, said it 3 times now, but it's huge because, again, Elijah Moore threw a bit of a fit last week, didn't end up playing in the game. Even though the Jets are winning, he wanted his targets. Was but nobody was really getting targets in the games because they were running the crap out of the football with Breece Hall and Michael Carter. So when you win, it's tough to complain, but Elijah Moore did it, sat out the week. Looks like he's back on track for them. They'll also maybe have to look to a guy like Denzel Mims, who also requested a trade before the season, who has been subpar, to say the least, in his NFL career. But and then Garrett Wilson will be in the receiver room too. We'll break all that down when we get to defense, but that's the big injury on the Jets side. Patriots-wise, we have 3 did not participate. David Andrews, who is still in concussion protocol, and with the current climate around concussions, I feel like he's probably going to end up being a no-go this weekend. It's already Thursday, and he hasn't touched the field. Christian Barmore with the knee injury ended up practicing some last week, didn't play, and now is it didn't do a DNP, so something to watch there. And then Kyle Duggar's ankle, also a DNP.
Yeah, and I mean those are 2 big playmakers in terms of Barmore and Duggar, and obviously Andrews a big loss too on offense, and we'll get to him later. But Duggar specifically, I mean this defense, and we've talked about it on this show. This defense looks so different when he's not on the field, especially when it comes to covering tight ends. The Jets got a couple of really good tight ends in Tyler Conklin, who I believe is their leading receiver outside of, they're throwing the ball to Breece Hall a ton, but I think he's their second leading receiver. And CJ Uzomah,
he's third.
Cincinnati Bengals.
He's third behind Garrett Wilson, but it was like Davis, Wilson, and then Conklin. Conklin's got plenty of run, like you said, outside of
right. And CJ Uzomah is a good player too. So that's what really scares me. I mean, we just kind of talked about how Corey Davis leaving could hurt the offense, but if the Patriots can't cover tight ends, it's really not going to matter. So they've got to figure something out there, and Duggar's been the answer. And if he's not going to be on the field, like Devin McCourty hasn't been able to man up tight ends this year. Jabril Peppers has struggled. We haven't seen Adrian Phillips really do it. He's usually pretty good at it. He's on the injury report with a shoulder. He was limited. He didn't finish the game last week, so I don't know what his condition is. After him, I mean, are you putting a corner on him? Or is it Mac Wilson's turn? Like they got to figure something out in terms of these tight ends because it does not, like you said, it doesn't seem like Kyle Duggar's going to play.
Right. I mean, even last week they let up the 10 quick points to the Bears, but they sort of had them in check a little bit when Zappe came in and they took their lead again, and then it was like all of a sudden Duggar left the game and the floodgates opened for that Chicago
right
defense, or that.
I mean, it was a couple plays later. You had the play where Fields rolled around and hit Cole Kmet over Devin McCourty deep down the sideline, and that that was a major turning point.
Exactly. So huge loss with Duggar probably out. It's an ankle. I don't know. Has anything come out? High ankle sprain? I haven't heard a thing.
No,
I don't know.
The only guy we've heard news on is Andrews, and he's in concussion protocol.
Right. So, two playmakers there. Concussion for Andrews as well out. Along the offensive line, some limited participation guys with Mike Onwenu yet again, and Isaiah Wynn is still on the report with a shoulder. So, look, if Mac Jones now getting the start, they're going to want to keep him upright and get the run game going to get him comfortable. And it looks like that might be tough if potentially three of their offensive linemen are at least banged up at a minimum.
Yeah, this is going to be really tough to do offensively. And you talk about it in the running game and the passing game as well. The way the Jets defense is constructed, right? They run that Seattle 3. It's basically a version of what the Legion of Boom did. That's where Robert Saleh's NFL coaching resume kind of begins. And the thing about that defensive structure is there's really not a ton of deceit to it. You're not really hiding a lot. You're just kind of running what you run. And the idea is you find players who are who are ideal scheme fits, who can run it at a high level, and you force the offense to also execute at a high level. It's taking away big plays first and foremost. You're forcing the other team to nickel and dime their way down the field. It's going to take 10, 15 plays to get there, and you basically dare them to go 10 or 15 plays without making a mistake. Part of that defense is, it's zone heavy, and it's really just the whole field is set up with zones. These defenses don't blitz a ton. The Jets blitz at the second lowest rate in the league, just over 14%. The Bears actually only the team that blitz less. Mm-hmm. So what that means is if you're going to play defense like that, you have to have a defensive line that can get home. You have to have a defensive line that can create pressure on their own. And the Jets have done that. They rank 12th in pressure rate. They rank second in quarterback knockdowns. These 4 guys are getting there. Quinnen Williams and John Franklin Myers are the studs. Yep. And then you have Carl Lawson and Sheldon Rankins are the other 2, 4 defensive linemen. Franklin Myers and Quinnen Williams alone have combined for 30 pressures and 8 sacks in 7 games. The Patriots have to be able to slow down those 4 guys. They have to. And when you probably don't have your center, your chief communicator. Mm-hmm. We don't know we have no idea what the deal is at right tackle. Is Isaiah Wynn healthy or is he not? If he is healthy, is he still the starter or is Marcus Cannon going to go over him, right? Michael Onwenu's banged up as well, like you said. And then you have Mac Jones, who's has only played 1 quarter of football in the last month, who's also a key communicator in all of this. That's a tall task. That is a tall task. And that to me is where this game really either the Patriots can make it a game or it can get out of hand away from them based on what the offensive line does and how they do containing that front 4 for the Jets.
Yeah, 100%. And a guy like James Ferentz, who has to come in and be the chief communicator, like he's done it in the past a little bit, but I mean, he's not nearly as reliable as David Andrews. The center position admittedly has been very solid for the Patriots over the last decade plus with
oh yeah.
I mean, they've been awesome. Even a guy like Ted Karras, who would have to come in and kind of run point for a while. It was always solid, but again, losing Andrews, who's been a force on the front for them for forever since he was undrafted out of Georgia, is tough loss. Same with the other guys. Again, like the Isaiah Wynn thing is it's wild because you don't know if it's an injury, but are they just kind of holding him there and keeping him there as they shop him? Right. We'll talk more trade deadline next week, probably at the beginning of next week with the deadline at 4 p.m. but on Tuesday. But O-line banged up, going to be tough. So anything else on the injury report that kind of caught your eye? Both receivers, again, Aguilar and Bourne, limited. Anthony Jennings made an appearance with a calf.
No, it's pretty much it. Just the offensive line.
Standard practice, yeah.
And the defense, yeah.
Yeah, Phillips with the shoulder, and John Jones will play, but he's on there with an ankle. So
yeah.
But the big ones, like we said, David Andrews, Christian Barmore, Duggar, all did not practice, all probably not going to play. So before we get into the offense defense, let's talk about our friends at LinkedIn. LinkedIn Jobs. These days, every new potential hire can feel like a high-stakes wager for your small business. You want to be 100% certain that you have access to the best qualified candidates available. That's why you have to check out LinkedIn Jobs. LinkedIn Jobs helps you find the right people for your team faster and for free. We use LinkedIn Jobs here at CLNS Media to post our openings, and it works like a charm. LinkedIn Jobs makes it super easy to post your openings. Then you just add your job and the purple hashtag hiring frame to your LinkedIn profile to spread the word that you're hiring. Simple tools like screening questions make it easy to focus on candidates with just the right skills and experience, so you can quickly prioritize who you'd like to interview and hire. 2022 is coming to a close here, so now's the perfect time to finish your year off right with the new team member. It's why small businesses rate LinkedIn Jobs number 1 in delivering high-quality hires versus the leading competitors. LinkedIn Jobs helps you find the qualified candidates you want to talk to faster. Post your job for free at linkedin.com/beat. That's linkedin.com/beat to post your job for free. Terms and conditions apply. Let's talk offense, because a little bit different, not so much different, but feels like we need to get something going with an offensive game plan here. Mac Jones is starting. The Jets defense is pretty good. Probably the best defense they've played in the last several weeks. They have a bunch of guys. They're letting up just under 20 points per game. Sauce Gardner, dominant rookie, looks like he's going to be the defensive rookie of the year if he stays healthy. CJ Mosley, Quinn Williams. I mean, you can go down the list, and these are just like, it sounds crazy, but they're big names, guys that have been like studs around this league for quite some time. You can even get into LaMarcus Joyner and DJ Reed. And I mean, they have a bunch of guys that can play good football. So the Jets defense is legit. Mac getting the start. Do they run this similar offense with Zappe that they've been running with Zappe? Do they go back to this thing they've been trying with Mac? It sounds like, by all accounts, or not that it sounds like, but you need to go back to that Zappe offense. And I wonder essentially if they're going to do it. What say you?
Well, I think they need to, especially with some of that play action stuff. I just talked a lot about how the offensive line is going to have to slow down, the front 4. The best way to do that is with play action, right? Mm-hmm. And make sure that they're using their eyes and they're actually going through, and they can't just pin their ears back and go. So I've been saying it since week 4. What they're doing with Zappe, they need to do with Mac, because Zappe has made that offense work. They have similar skill sets, but Mac is a little more elevated. That is how you unlock the offense. Whatever this is they're trying to do with Mac with all these deep shots. And the other element of it is, and I kind of touched on it earlier, right? the Seattle 3 defense is designed to take away the big play. The Mac Jones offense is just big plays. It just throws down the field. His average depth of target is 10.6 yards. That's the second deepest in the league. The Jets defense,
that blows my mind. Just the 10.6 yards per carry or yards per attempt that we're doing with Mac Jones, second in the league when he does not have
his game.
No,
it's
not
his game. And there's nothing wrong with that. There's ways to win with a quarterback like that.
Right.
What blows my mind is how many people I've seen say, well, get rid of Mac Jones and bring back Jimmy Garoppolo. Jimmy Garoppolo is a worse version of Mac Jones. If you want to run this offense and you're upset Mac Jones can't do it, don't put Jimmy Garoppolo in it. Don't do that. That won't work. Anyway, the Jets want you to throw deep. The Jets want you to throw into their cover 3 with Sauce Gardner lurking back there and their safeties. That's exactly what they want you to do. And if the Patriots run the offense they've been running, that's exactly what's going to happen. The Patriots offense last year in the offense they run with Zappe this year, and the way it worked for a number of years under Brady, is predicated on the idea of use the short and intermediate parts of the field, take what the defense gives you, and basically play mistake-free, low-risk, mistake-free football. Take the high percentage throws until the defense doesn't let you anymore, which is, by the way, exactly what the Seattle 3 defense is willing to give you, what the New York Jets defense is willing to give you. The idea is that then either one of two things is going to happen. They'll let you sit underneath all day and throw the quick slants and throw the drag routes and run the football and run screens. And you can just do that all day. And as long as you don't shoot yourself in the foot, you're going to do well enough offensively. The other thing that can happen is defense doesn't want to give that to you anymore. They creep up. And then that's when you throw the ball down the field, when they start stepping up to take away that short and intermediate throws. That's what they did for years. Not every year, but a lot of the years under Brady. Some years, Randy Moss, Westwell, that offense was different. But that's what they did quite a bit under Brady. That's what they did in 2020, 2021 with Mac. And it's what they've done this year with Bailey Zappe. Why they want to get – and by the way, I love that offensive system because –
with the right guys.
It enables – well, here's the thing. I think most guys are scheme fits for that offense. I think it gives you a lot of flexibility with your personnel, with the way you attack. You can still be a game plan offense within that, right? Mm-hmm. Unless you have a guy with an arm like Aaron Rodgers or Patrick Mahomes, you really just can't exclusively take deep shots. It's not going to work, right? There's 3-4 quarterbacks on the planet that can run that offense. There's a reason not everybody runs it. It's not because it's not successful. It's because it's not easy. The Patriots need to get back to that offense with Mac Jones under center. This is a great week to do it because the other defense is willing to give it to you. The cover 3, the Seattle 3 defense, the New York Jets defense is willing to give it to you. And we can get into some specifics of how they can do that here in a little bit, but they need to go back to that general philosophy with Mac Jones because it's what's going to allow him to dig himself out of this hole.
I mean, agreed 100%. And I think Michael Lombardi talked about it, about just take a profit. And I think Emmanuel Acho talked about it with Justin Herbert, which it was a bizarre thing. He read some Chargers coverage and it was kind of wrong, but he used the term, which is my point here. Just take a profit. You can't go broke taking a profit.
Mac Jones used that term a lot last year. Haven't heard him say it this year, but he used it a lot last year. Yeah.
It's like, I'm kind of confused as to why the change, why the different offense. It just doesn't make sense to me. It's almost, we'll be down at Gillette tomorrow and Matt Patricia's going to talk to us Friday morning. And I kind of want to ask him the question. I think I'm probably going to. It's like, why the change? Like what's going on? And try and, we'll back it up with some numbers, which we've talked about here, but like, it's the thing with Zappe, the first drive, they run that leak play. It's like, why are we not running kind of game plan specific plays with Mac on board? And why are we just chucking it downfield? It doesn't make sense to me. I don't know. You have an answer? Like,
it's a $1 million question. That's kind of, it's funny. I've talked to these people who like are convinced Bailey Zappe is a better quarterback than Mac Jones. And I try to explain to them why it looks that way when it's not. And I've had this conversation with 3 different people, and with all 3 people, it basically gets to the point where they say, well, then why don't they run that offense for Mac Jones? Like they think they have some gotcha. Right. No, that's it. That's the whole, this is where we are. Right. That question is the reason, the answer to that question is the reason the season is where it is and why the franchise is where it is the answer to that question, which none of us know. Hopefully they know.
We'll see. But
yeah,
I mean, again, hopefully this is the week that they really, it's been the last 3 weeks. It's Zappe with a good offense, Mac, and then Zappe with a bad offensive performance. And it's like, all right, all signs are kind of pointed to this is the direction we should go. Hopefully they take that direction this week against the Jets.
Right.
You said you can get into a little bit more specifics on exactly how you want to attack this defense. We talked about it last week with the Bears, how they had a guy at all 3 levels. It seems like the Jets certainly have that here with Quentin Williams on the line, CJ Mosley in the middle, and Sauce Gardner and LaMarcus Joyner solid in the back end, DJ Reed. They have a good secondary. So they have guys at all 3 levels. Alex, how do we attack?
So I think first off, like I said before, you've got to upset the timing of the defensive linemen. So that's play actions, that's screens, that's draws, those sort of concepts. Screens could be big this week. Screens could really be big. They've got to work some of those in. So that's one of my keys. The other, CJ Mosley, you just got to be aware of where he is. There's no game plan element to it. He's one of those guys where you got to know where he is on the field. He's going to drop back into coverage. He's going to rush the passer. He's going to be in spies. Like he's going to be doing a little bit of everything. The really interesting one to me, and this is where the Patriots can really have the advantage and maybe play the game that they want to, is with Sauce Gardner. Because part of the Seattle 3 is the cornerbacks don't travel. So like Richard Sherman, right? When
Sherman was a
Seattle,
one side, correct.
Yeah. Right. When they ran this in Seattle, peak Legion of Boom years, Richard Sherman was the left corner over 90% of the time. I think it's like 97%. He lined up on the left side. And if they shrink that formation, he'll come in. When they have a guy all the way out on the boundary, he'll go out. But he is always going to be on the left side of the defensive formation, so to the right of the quarterback. Right? What the Patriots used to do when they played the Seahawks was take their 3rd or 4th receiver, whether it was Chris Hogan, whether it was Danny Amendola, whether it was Philip Dorsett. They would take that receiver and just run him up the field. That guy would just run verticals all day. And basically what they do is they take Richard Sherman 30, 35 yards up the field over here. And then over here, they just play 10-on-10 football.
Scheme up the other side, yep.
That's basically what it was. You have a great chance to do that again. Take Nelson Aguilar or Tyquan Thornton, put him out there on the right side of your formation. So that's the left corner for the defense is to the right of the offense. That's where Sauce is going to be. Put him on the right side of that formation. Just have him go. Just it's going to be wind sprints all day. Him and Sauce having foot races all day. Just let
sounds like Aguilar might actually have a job this week, and he might be able to do it pretty well.
And then what you can do is you can come back on the other side and look. Jacoby Myers in the slot is obviously going to be a big part of what we do. Michael Carter, they have 2 Michael Carters. Michael Carter is their slot corner as well as their running back. LaMarcus Joyner may see some time there. Certainly exploit that with Jacoby. He's been excellent. But the real thing is you have Devontae Parker, 6'3", 50-50 ball, big guy. And the deep balls to him, the 50-50 balls to him have been their best deep shot the last couple of weeks. It wasn't great at the beginning of the year, and I was critical of it. But he had one against the Lions. He had one against the Browns. He even had that one last week from Bailey Zappi. Like, if they want to run that play, the corner on the other side of Sauce Gardner, you mentioned him, DJ Reed, is 5'9". Like, if you want to throw one up to Devontae Parker, they will give you 6'3" on 5'9". They're not going to have Sauce, who's 6'1", go over there and say, oh, no, you're putting your bigger number 1 receiver over there. We're going to put our big number 1 corner over there. That's not how they operate. They're going to put the 5'9" guy over there with help with the safety over the top. You're going to have a chance to really exploit that 50-50 with Devontae Parker. If they have Devontae Parker lined up on the right side of the formation, so opposite Sauce, on the right side of the formation, and they try going deep to him on that side, if they do that once, it's one time too many. Just, again, play 10-on-10, Sauce over there, whatever. He's going to lock down whoever he covers. He's a very good player. He's got those long arms, great instincts.
He's outstanding. I mean, the fact that we're sitting here talking about a rookie on defense that we essentially need to take out of the game plan says all you need to know about Sauce Gardner.
Oh, yeah.
He's outstanding. Like
10-on-10, or let him do that, and then 10-on-10 over here. You've got Devontae Parker guarded by a guy who's 5'9". Take advantage of that. Like that should be, and it doesn't have to just be 50-50 balls. You can run them on slants, use that natural separation, comebacks, use his size, the advantage. Should be a big game for Devontae Parker. That's it. That to me is that's what they would do back in the day. That's what they would do. Well, this year's been different, but that's how they would handle it back in the day.
What about the run game? Do we establish the run again? We haven't been able to do it lately. And Stevenson they need a spell guy here again. Stevenson, again, last week, way too many touches. We've talked about it. But, sorry, you were going to go into the run, just...
Yeah, sorry. So you hope Damon Harris is healthy, played a little bit last week. You hope he can get a little more involved this week. They do need the spell guy. Thank you for saying that before I did, so I don't just sound like a cranky old man yelling at a cloud. No, establishing the run is where this all starts. Like, I'm setting up the passing concepts there, but establishing the run is where this all starts. That because you're going to, make those defensive linemen play the run. They can't just pin their ears back and pass rush.
Exactly.
The issue is you faced some really bad run defenses the last 3 weeks. Even Chicago's wasn't great. Right. Jets are third in the league in run defense, 3.9 yards per carry against. It's not going to be that simple. So I'd love to see them bring back
those O-line too.
Yeah, I think, it would be a great time. And again, this is something they've only done with Zappy. But I'd like to see them bring back some of those 6 offensive line, the tackle eligible sets, whether that's Isaiah Wynn and Marcus Cannon, or maybe Yadni Kajus gets activated off IR. He returned to practice this week. I don't know if that's going to happen, but Taekwon was activated after 1 week, right? Some of that. Decent week to go back to 12 personnel, keeping tight ends, keeping running backs into block in the passing game. But yeah, in the run, they have to establish the run, but it's not going to be as easy as it was against Cleveland, in Detroit, and as easy as it should have been against Chicago. It's going to be an actual tall task this week, which is why, again, that play action, draws, things like that, just anything to upset the timing up front. That's the name of this game. Upset the timing of the defensive front. If they can do that, it's going to make everything else easier. But it's easier said than done.
Of course. It's I mean, that's the name of the game. It sounds easy. I feel like we've been a broken record on this show for the last 3 weeks on just kind of how they have to attack on offense, but it's how it works against these types of defenses. Ultimately, they just need to. I mean, it sounds silly the way to say it like this, but they need to just outscore whatever the Jets are going to have to do, because I think defense is how the Patriots win this game. If we want to get into the defense now, because for all the Jets have been on offense, Zach Wilson hasn't been great, and he hasn't really been asked to do anything. It's been mainly their run game. Breece Hall set the tone for them running the ball. He ran for I think it was 90 yards, over 100, and then he had 72 on 4 carries last week before he tore his ACL. So, I mean, they were just pounding the rock with Breece Hall. And I think the defense is this is another week where they have to really bounce back, and I think they could do it on a team that is banged up on offense and just lost their running back. My point here, sorry to kind of jumble of my words, but it's a huge bounce back spot for them with a struggling offense in front of them.
Yeah, and by the way, when Zach Wilson has been asked to do stuff, he's struggled.
Right.
And that's so this is my big key when the Patriots are on defense is he can't handle the blitz. He just does not know what he's looking at. He panics. Yeah. They're down, a couple of linemen here. Elijah Vera Tucker's out for the season. They've got other guys who are banged up. Blitz him, get in his face, get aggressive. For that to work, you have to be able to single cover across the board. Now, what their wide receivers are going to look like this week in terms of who's playing is going to be interesting. We don't know about Corey Davis, Elijah Moore. What is his deal? He's probably going to play, but to what extent? How locked in is he going to be? Garrett Wilson's, he's good for rookie. But
he's fast. I think he ran a 4.3. That feels like a John Jones matchup.
That feels like a John Jones or a Marcus Jones matchup. Yep.
Yeah. Cross that out and man up the rest of the way.
Right. The point is you got to be able to lock these guys up man for man. I think man blitz is the way to go. The problem is, I think they can take care of the wide receivers in that scenario. Right. But I talked about this before. It's the tight ends. Mm-hmm. Can the Patriots, and I do have the numbers here. I pulled them up. Tyler Conklin is the second most targeted player on the Jets. Garrett Wilson is 53 targets, then Tyler Conklin, then Corey Davis, who might be out. So that target share could increase, could go up. Oh, by the way, Breece Hall's fourth. So even more reason that target share is going to go up. Is it? I don't think it's Devin McCourty. They'll probably try it. I've seen enough of Devin McCourty trying to man up tight ends this year. It's not going to happen. I talked about this before. Adrian Phillips is banged up. If he's healthy, that's the guy I would go with. Maybe if you feel good enough about the Peppers, maybe He's kind of been on and off on that. He got beat against Baltimore a couple times.
Mm-hmm.
If you feel really good about the wide receiver corner matchups, and they will do this on occasion, maybe it's Jalen Mills, maybe it's Jack Jones.
Yeah.
But that's the one to me. If they can cover the tight end properly and get pressure with the blitz, and then make sure the tight ends are manned up, and I trust them to cover the wide receivers. That's what it is. Again, getting an early lead helps to take away the run, but I'm actually not too worried about them against the run this week. I know that sounds blasphemous after the last game, but what killed them was the quarterback runs, some of these jet sweeps, like really creative. We talked about on the last show, the sideline to sideline, 53 and a third running plays. Jets might add some of that if they're smart, seeing what the Bears did last week, but most of their running game is pretty traditional. Pick the gap, hit the gap. They're running off tackle at the furthest out. They're not really going all the way out to the sideline. The Patriots have been good against that running game this year. It's when non-running backs run the ball, or you start incorporating motions and double moves and things like that they struggle. Jets running game is pretty vanilla. So it's good. They're very good at what they do. I don't mean to say vanilla, they're bad, but it's kind of like their defense.
It's basic.
They're not hiding a lot. The reason they're good is not because they're going to confuse you and show you all this stuff you haven't seen before. It's because they're going to execute what they do at such a high level. You have to match that to be able to stop them. I trust them to be able to stop that kind of rushing attack. They've been able to stop that kind of rushing attack again so far this year. It's the non-traditional stuff that screwed with them. So,
the two main guys
and then cover the tight ends.
The two main guys on their rushing attack that have been, dominant for them the last 3 weeks are now out in Breece Hall and Vera Tucker. Yeah, Michael Carter, offensive Michael Carter,
dominant run stopper and Christian Barmore. So of course, that out. Yeah,
okay, fair. But my point here was
it's a good point,
right? But they still do have Michael Carter, who's a really good running back, who was good last year and has been not splitting carries with Hall, but was sort of the starter and was getting reps at back to start the season and was effective. And then they bring in James Robinson too, who is a good back, who I think they're going to give carries to. But Vera Tucker's tough on the front as well. Even in pass situations, like you mentioned with Zach Wilson and how they struggle with mobile quarterbacks, Wilson is mobile-ish. He's flashy and can kind of move around in the pocket, but he's not a threat to run the football anywhere past 5 yards downfield, really. So I'm not too worried about
him. I'm a little worried about him. Everybody keeps saying, "Oh, they can't stop running quarterbacks," but we'll deal with that when we get to Josh Allen. We'll deal with that when we get to Kyler Murray. Wilson can move around a little. I think people underrate how well he can move. He's not Lamar Jackson. No. My term for him coming out of the draft, and Mike, I don't know if you watched this show all the way back then, was Mormon Manziel.
Okay,
they're not going to call design runs, and he's not exactly the fastest guy.
Johnny's a better mobile quarterback.
I'm not a big Zach Wilson guy. He's a crafty runner. He finds space where you don't think there's space. That's the one thing he's really good at. Part of the reason I called him Mormon Manziel is because I think he throws the ball like Johnny Manziel does. I had him ranked as my sixth quarterback last year.
Okay.
So, but if they give him, so here's that, I don't think that those quarterbacks, let them scheme run with Zach Wilson. If they're going to do that, the Patriots can.
Well, that's what I was just going to say. Okay. Building off this, and sorry to cut you off. Go first. Go.
No, I would just say what worries me is go back to the 3rd and 14, right? In that game against the Bears, where they drop back into man coverage and there's nobody within 20 yards of Justin Fields, right? He runs for 21 yards, picks up the first down. That play, I think Zach Wilson can make. That play, I worry about him making. He may not make it every time, Zach, Justin Fields did, but I think he can make it enough that you got to at least be I don't know that they need to leave a spy, but you can't just willy-nilly pin your ears back and let him break contain, because he'll take advantage of that again.
Yeah,
enough.
I want to say it. He does not run like Johnny ran, but I like the Mormon Manziel talk. It's because it's a fun nickname, but B, they do kind of throw the ball the same. But I would trust.
Everybody do you know what the throw is? I'm going to start getting you ready for draft season on the show. Yeah. Do you know what the throw is? What's the throw in terms of draft talk? No. So the throw.
Like the crossbody.
all these guys come out at their pro day and they're in shorts and a t-shirt and they run this way and then they run this way and then they throw the ball across their body. That throw has very little practical application when evaluating quarterbacks, yet every guy makes it, and the clip goes out on Twitter. Everybody goes, look at this. Like, who else can make that throw? Literally everybody does it at their pro day. Like, hey, Kellen Mond did it. Mac Jones did it. Zach Wilson did it. Josh Allen did it. Patrick Mahomes did it. I'm sure Joe Flacco did it back in the day. Like, everybody did it. Anyways, like, he made the throw at his pro day, as, again, every quarterback does. And all of a sudden, do you remember this? It was Mormon Mahomes. That's what everybody was saying, was Mormon Mahomes. So my retort to Mormon Mahomes was, no, Mormon Manziel. Okay. Anyway, that's where that
now it makes sense. From. Well, my point as far as like how they can scheme this up with Wilson is, I mean, you look at vanilla offenses and vanilla offensive coordinators, like a guy like Patricia, who does not seem to really fully understand how to scheme something up, or even Joe Lombardi in Los Angeles, who has one of the most skilled quarterbacks in the league in Justin Herbert, and they basically don't do like any play action. All they do is shotgun and 4 wide and throw it deep. Well, if Mike LaFleur, who is a good offensive mind, who's a part of that Shanahan tree, they're good at offensive mind. They might not be great head coaches, as Alex will say, but they know how to. No, you're not wrong. That's we've
for the most part. Look, there's exceptions to the rule, but that's an off-season thing. Yeah.
Right. The point is, Mike LaFleur knows how to call an offense, and if he's smart, he will realize the limited but skill set he has in Zach Wilson. Watch the film from last week and say, okay, we can take advantage of the Patriots not being able to cover quarterbacks who are athletic. So yeah, that's just my point. They have a smart enough coaching staff. Looks like a competent coaching staff where that might be a problem here. So they just need to make sure that they know that Zach Wilson might be able to run on
them. Yeah, just be aware of it.
Yeah, defense is how you win this game, though. I think that they have the tools there because, again, man up those wide receivers. Even if they can't cover a guy like Tyler Conklin. I mean, Tyler Conklin, he kind of looks like an offensive lineman out there playing tight end, but he's good. So it almost looks silly because he's just like this.
You weren't worried about Robert Tonyan.
I know.
He got a big one on him. Like, here we go again. Are you sure you want to go down this road?
I know. It's just Tyler Conklin doesn't scare me. Uzomah scares me more than Tyler Conklin.
Honestly, same. I don't know why they're not playing Uzomah more. Maybe this is the week.
I know. Yeah.
Uzomah, that dude can play. He's at when I went, I don't even know what day of the week it is anymore. When I went on Tuesday and I looked at the splits, I was really surprised how little they're throwing him the ball. Maybe there's something there that, we just don't know, not being around the team every day, but yeah, I would agree with that.
Yeah. So that's kind of the recipe offensive and defensively. If we want to, do you have any final thoughts on the defense before we kind of we can get into some Q&A. If you guys want to fill up the chat with some questions as we kind of wrap this up, but any final thoughts offensive, defensively? I'll give a prediction and a pick after if you got any thoughts after.
Offensively and defensively, this is normally where I squeeze my special teams thought in.
Yeah, we can do special too. Let's kind of just wrap up the game as a whole as we get some Q&As in here.
Braden Mann's a good punter. I'll say that. It's going to be a field position game. Braden Mann, Jets punter, is a really good punter. So we already talked about Jake Bailey struggling.
Yeah.
So I said my piece on that, but
good.
There's my special teams thought.
Good. Max starting. Call it like you did with Zappy. Sounds like the name of the game. ISO Sauce Gardner on the opposite side and throw away from him. Defensively, get after Zach Wilson with some blitz and watch out for the tight ends, and you can man up these corners. These wide receivers with your corners. I have a full prediction with players to watch on CLNSmedia.com that was posted today, so you guys can check that out. However, I will give you my prediction and pick. The Jets are 1.5-point favorites this week. Kind of makes sense because the Jets are actually pretty damn good this year, but I ultimately think that the Patriots get it done this week. I think they're gonna handle them on defense, and then the offense is just gonna have to score their points, get it done, scheme it up with Mac. I finally trust Patricia here in the spot for some reason. I don't know why, but I think that's weird. All this, I feel like I know it is. It's silly, but I feel like they're gonna, they're going with Mac. They're in their one direction. It feels like this is the week where, everyone's talking bad about them. It's crazy, the malpractice and yada, yada, yada. And I feel like they bounce back. So Take the Pats plus 1.5, and I also like the under of 40.5 because I don't think the Jets are going to score many points.
No, there's going to be no points in this game. None.
Yeah, without Breece Hall, without Vera Tucker, it's going to be no offense from the. I don't think the Jets are going to be able to score because I think the defense
9-3 game at best. I mean, this is
a win's a win.
We're talking about Iowa Rutgers here. Yeah. My overall thoughts on the game. Everybody's kind of touting the Jets' record 5-2, their win streak, and look, I know it's a cliche. It is hard to win in this league. Mm-hmm. Let's look at their win streak here for a bit. They beat the Pittsburgh Steelers 24-20. That's not a good team. That's not a good Pittsburgh team. And frankly, I was surprised to see that the Steelers scored 20 points on this Jets defense. They blow out Miami 40-17 with backup quarterbacks. They beat the Packers 27-10, which I still sort of think is impressive. I still think it's impressive holding Aaron Rodgers to 10 points, but this isn't Aaron Rodgers. Like, clearly
it's not your father's Packers team.
Right. And then last week they go on the road. They beat Denver 16-9 with a backup quarterback, Brett Rippon, Mark Rippon, Dave Rippon, whoever it was. They needed 2 last-minute pass breakups. They got a pass breakup in the end zone on a 4th down. Couldn't run with like 2:30 to go. Couldn't run the clock out and almost got beat again. And had, Sauce had to make another incredible play there at the end to beat a very bad Broncos team without Russell Wilson. So I kind of look at it. Patriots are probably the second best or third best team the Jets have played on this stretch, right? Yeah. They're better than the Broncos. They're better than the Steelers. I still think it's a toss-up with Miami, especially because it's that backup Miami quarterback, right? I think this is a measuring bar for both teams. Both teams have, beaten bad teams. What have the Jets done against the truly good teams? Well, they lost to the Ravens and they lost to the Bengals. So I think not that the Patriots are on those teams' levels, but I think if the Jets win, puts a little more legitimacy behind what they're doing right now, especially because you get that monkey off the back and them beat the Patriots since 2015 and all of that. And if the Patriots
wins,
I think 12.
It depends. 12 straight, yeah.
And if the Patriots win, I think it kind of cancels out some of that doom and gloom and puts some of what the Jets have done in perspective. So I honestly think this game's more about the Jets than the Patriots in terms of, what it means. For the Patriots, it's just getting your head back above water. If they lose, all hell breaks loose, but it kind of feels like we're teetering on that anyway. I don't know that that's necessarily about the Jets. I think they could be playing anybody short of maybe the Bills and the Chiefs this week, and we'd feel that way. Whereas for the Jets, it really feels like this goes one of two ways. You have 5 wins in a row, getting ready to take on the Buffalo Bills. Like that's big boy football. And I don't know the last time the Jets played big boy football. They haven't had a 4-game winning streak in 7 years. It's the first time in 7 years they've won 4 games in a row.
If they lose, Patrick year probably
since 2015, since the last time they beat Patriots. If they lose, it's all right. They lost to a Patriots team that's kind of reeling. It's kind of like what the Patriots winning streak was at the middle of last year, where they rattled off all those wins and it was great. And you felt like they were building something, and it probably was a sign they were at the time, but they're still not on that next level yet. So that's my overall view on it.
Yeah. Well, again, we'll see. They all feel like must wins at this point in the season because this AFC is just a jumbled mess. And I mean, it's going to be a close to 500 team at the end that makes like the 6 and 7 seed. So you just got to play. You got to play football. You got to win. You got to win the games that you should win. And I feel like this is a game they should win. Q&A time, Alex. What do you think?
Yep.
Let's do it. All right. I got one. I got one right off the bat here. Right. And how short is Mac's leash this week? Does he have a leash? Because, again, I said it from the top. It feels like Belichick is still being kind of sheepish on, like, what's up with the quarterback position. And he's not backing up Mac entirely here. And I know it sounded like he said he's going to start, and the report comes out from Yates, and I get it. But reports came out last week, too, that Mac was going to start. And he did start, and then they pulled him at some point. I mean, he talked about it being injury-related, and now his injury's done, and he's taking the reps. So do you think he has a short leash? Do you think he has a short leash?
I actually don't, simply because there is no more, we pulled him because of the injury. Like, if he gets pulled in this game, he was benched. And I wrote about this on 98.5 thesportshub.com earlier today. Max said on Wednesday he believes he deserves to be the starter for the team. I agree with him. I laid out why. One of the reasons. Once you legitimately pull him, And I don't necessarily buy that he was pulled last week because of the injury or that he wasn't ready or whatever, but you at least had that. They had that excuse there. You can present it that way. They can't present it that way this week. They can't present it that way going forward, short of him getting hurt again, obviously. Once he's gone, he's gone. You can't go back to Mac Jones, right? Once you bench him, that's it. And then one of either two things happens. You're riding with Bailey Zappi and banking on his development, which it's not really that different of a spot you're in with Mac Jones. Now, the fact you'll run an offense that actually suits him certainly helps his development, but that's not a Mac Jones issue. That's a you issue. The other thing that happens is Zappi doesn't pan out. And look, I'm a big Bailey Zappi guy, but even I thought coming out of the draft, he was a year or two away. And I still believe that. I think he's going to have a long, successful career in the NFL, here or elsewhere. But he's not a starting NFL quarterback yet, and forcing him into that role is only going to stunt his growth. Well, all right, so you sat Mac. You can't go back to him. Zappi's not the guy. Now it's January 2020 all over again. And it's, January 2021 all over again. And, you've just moved on from Cam Newton, and you're going back in the draft, and you have to find that guy. And I've talked about this a lot. When you draft a quarterback, it's really a 5-year window. They're in year 2 of that 5-year window right now. That goes back to 0. And that has long-ranging implications beyond the quarterback position, because switching quarterback, you need the quarterback first. When you do a rebuild, that's the first box you have to check. If they go back to unchecking that box, you're like a year or two before you can really start to put this thing together again. What does that mean? It means guys like Matthew Judon, guys like Ramondre Stevenson, guys like Kyle Duggar, guys who are on 1 or 2 year contracts. Suddenly those contracts expire before your true compete window. Now those guys become expendable. Now it's a full-on rebuild. So I understand why some people think Mac should have a short leash. I totally get it. And there will be a time where that is true. Doing that right now is really, really, really playing with fire. You have to be willing to commit to going again. Remember how we all felt at the end of the 2020 season? That's what you're committing to going back to. Yeah. If you're going to pull Mac here. And is it worth it after 3.5 games of just absolutely setting them up to fail, that you're willing to say, hey, this kid, Mac, is the reason this isn't working? That's basically what it comes down to.
There's a very big butterfly effect that could happen if you bench Mac in this spot. Benching him last week, whether it was a benching or due to injury, at least there was some sort of excuse / story behind it, being the injury. Now that he's fully healthy and is able to go full go, you have to back him or you don't. And it's not just we pull him this week and we try it again next week. No, this has a lot of implications going forward. So I don't think his leash is that short either. However, the Belichick comments still kind of are strange to me, because he's not committing long-term to Mac right now.
And I'll add a couple things. Like you said, that's my piece on you can't go away from him right now. If Bill doesn't think he's the guy and Bill's committed to a rebuild, like I just laid out that whole disaster plan, if Bill's fine going in that direction, then the leash probably is pretty short.
Right.
I can't imagine Bill, this close to catching Shula, would want to do that at 71 years old, but he might. Yeah, the other element of it is, I don't want to come across as saying Max Teflon. There will be a time when you do have to decide whether or not he's the guy you want to go with long-term. That is much later this season, and realistically in the off season, when we, let's see where they're picking in the draft. Let's see which quarterbacks declare for the draft and which quarterbacks don't. Let's see which quarterbacks decide to go to free agency. Let's see what it meant that Tom Brady was at Robert Kraft's wedding. We'll have all those conversations in the offseason. Having them now is just, you can afford to have all those conversations in the offseason. So why not use the time you have now to see if you need to, or see if Mac Jones can rebound? Not giving him a shot to fight for his job just because, as a fan, you're looking at it because he threw a couple picks, some of which, by the way, were not his fault.
Right.
Which people are kind of pointing out with Zappi. I don't know why we can't realize that with Mac. There will be a time when it comes to determine whether or not this is Mac's job. Right. Making that decision right now for the sake of just doing it now doesn't help you. That talk, and trust me, we will have those conversations. We'll have them on this show. I'm sure they'll be had on other shows. I'll use it as a shameless plug. We'll have it on the Sports Hub Patriots podcast. We'll have it on Catch 22 with Evan Lazar on Patriots.com. We'll have those conversations in the offseason. There's not a huge reason to have those conversations right now.
Agreed. You have the rest of the season. Let's go to the next one because I like this one.
All right.
You see the Pats making any trades before the deadline? I wrote about this, and I can kind of hit it real quick before I let you get into it. I wrote about some trade bait pieces this week on CLNSmedia.com, just because if the Patriots do lose this weekend against the Jets, you kind of get into, okay, are we buying or selling, right? Do you go after a guy who's on an expiring contract to bring him in for, a run at the postseason, or do you start selling guys who are on expiring contracts who you can try and get some value for? If they do lose against the Jets, I think there are some guys that they would really consider selling, one of which is Damian Harris, I think, which is another question here. I'll kind of pop that up real quick too. Just give Todd some love here. Is Damian Harris really trade bait? I think if they lose this week, Harris should be trade bait because he's a running back on his last year of his deal who they're not going to re-sign because you just don't re-sign running backs in this league unless Harris wants to take some crazy low deal because he'll get paid elsewhere, something that he's worth. I think Damian Harris is a trade bait guy because he's on last year. Isaiah Wynn could potentially be there as well. I think that tackle depth in the league right now is so thin, and he doesn't really seem to have a place here right now, whether it's his injury or because Marcus Cannon looks to be pretty solid at the position. So I think Wynn's another guy who they could trade. I have a couple more, but what do you think about at least Harris and Wynn? And you can kind of go into it from there.
I'm just nervous about trading Harris because if they're going to trade Harris and suddenly Pierre Strong or Kevin Harris or JJ Taylor steps into the rotation, fine. It's probably a good trade. I'm actually not totally 100% on the boat that they won't pay Damian Harris. I think he's a guy that has become a very important voice in that locker room, as a leader in that locker room, and that may supersede his position. And yes, they never pay running backs, but that there may be more value in his leadership ability.
I just don't like that.
Done with him, and
I have a hard time justifying it.
I do think he's a guy that would maybe take a little less to stay here. He's very some of that depends on Mac Jones. He's very close friends with Mac Jones. They've been friends since high school. So, or since college. So I'm not ruling that out. That being said, if you can get something legitimate for him, as long as you're willing to give JJ Taylor, Kevin Harris, or Pierre Strong Harris, because if you trade Damian Harris and then you run Ramondre Stevenson into the ground this year, and then all of a sudden you get back next year and he's cooked, that's going to look really, really, really stupid.
Well, at that point, that's
by the way
in sell mode. So at that point you're sort of in your sell mode. Not that you're gonna tank or that you don't care about wins, but it's like, okay, if we do have to give a guy like JJ Taylor or Pierre Strong or Kevin Harris carries here, it's okay because he's still taking the load off Ramondre.
As long
even
as
if they're getting 2 yards a pop, it's like you need to still spell Ramondre. Right.
As long as they want to do that, and almost give Kevin Harris and Pierre Strong the carries, like more so than JJ Taylor. Get those guys ready because then you're going to need them next year, right? I'm all for that. I am all for that. The other thing, though, is and this is more with, I'll get into Isaiah Wynn in a second. He's kind of his own thing.
Yeah.
With Damian Harris, because people are so infatuated with Ramondre Stevenson, and with Nelson Aguilar, because people just are sick of him. Trade him. Get rid of him. Sell it. For what? People just want these guys off the team. It's not, you're not saving it. Again, wins is different. You're not saving a ton of cap space with any of these other trades. And even if you do save a couple million, it's the middle of the season. Who are you signing? So you're not opening up money. You're not necessarily going to get a ton for a lot of these guys. Think about the deals that go down at the deadline. You're not trading Von Miller. Okay. You're not.
Right.
These are 6th and 7th round picks. They're pick swaps. If you do manage to turn it around, running back depth, wide receiver depth, those are going to come in handy. They are. So the last thing, and I say this with every team, I say this with the Red Sox, I say this with the Celtics, every time we do deadline, trading players just for the sake of trading them, just for the sake of getting them off your team is never a good idea. It just doesn't work, right? Yeah. If you're going to trade a player, there should be a purpose behind it. Either you get a really good offer or, a guy on a multi-year deal and you want to get that money off the books in the future. Now, okay, now that makes more sense. Doesn't apply to Damian Harris and Nelson Aguilar. Would apply to a guy like Kendrick Bourne, would apply to a guy like Devontae Parker.
Right.
I hate the concept of this guy sucks, trade him. It's not that simple. It's never that simple. Isaiah Wynn's a little different. Isaiah Wynn, like you said, does not have a place on this team. I, for one, think he was benched last week. I think they made him inactive so that, to save face because the deadline's coming up. But I think had he been healthy, Marcus Cannon still starts that game. You trade Isaiah Wynn, you actually do open up a legitimate amount of money. I think it's like $5 million. Yeah. And you open up, and I don't know the exact details. You can go find Pat's Cap on Twitter. But basically, some of the money you would open up by trading Isaiah Wynn actually carries over to next year. That would also be the case with Nelson Agholor, but with Agholor, it's a negligible amount. With Wynn, I think it's actually a couple $1 million. I think it's like 2 and change. That's not insignificant. The other thing is, and Mike, you touched on this, it's a seller's market right now when it comes to offensive linemen. That's not the case for wide receivers. That's not the case for running backs. You're going to trade the player for less than they're worth. With Isaiah Wynn, you might actually get like a 4th or 5th round pick just because teams are so desperate for offensive linemen. So if he's not going to start here, you actually do open up money, which isn't the case with the other guys. And you can get something for him. Like that one I'm more in on. The one caveat being, and this is easy. They only had 2 tackles dressed last week with Wynn inactive. It was Marcus Cannon, Wright, and Trent Brown. Right. The only other tackle on the under contract with the team eligible to play this year is Yodny Kajus, who's on IR. You can't have 2 tackles, and frankly, you can't have 3 if they're Marcus Cannon, Yodny Kajus, and Trent Brown, because all those guys are injury prone. You got to somehow, some way add another tackle to the roster. That's very easy to do. And you don't have to go out, and get prime Orlando Pace. You've just got to add a body at the position. They don't have any on the practice squad right now. You got to bring somebody in from the outside. As long as they do that, Wynn's the one guy I can get on board with, yeah, all right, let's get this guy moved because it makes a ton of sense.
Right. I agree completely. I think those are the kind of guys that you look at. Another question here that I think is interesting, and it's something we touched on when we talked about the offense. Just Mac hasn't seemed to be the same since last year's Bills game. How do you boost his confidence? Well, first of all, you don't do it by benching him and to Zappy chance, but this week you let him make a profit, take a profit, ease him into it, establish the run, play action, short throws, scheme up Devontae Parker, whether it be a crossing route to Jacoby Myers. Like you use the guys to their advantage and you make it easy on Jones for the first quarter, the first 2 drives even, and you get him going that way. You boost his confidence. You see completions. You see the ball go through the hoop. That's how you boost confidence even early in a game. And then you can start to incorporate the downfield run. But you can't do what you did last week and just spread them out and throw. You run the offense like you did with Zappy. That's the way you boost Mac's confidence.
I would even say more simple than that. Run an offense he's comfortable in. He's not comfortable in what they're running right now. He's comfortable in what Bailey Zappi's running. Let him run an offense that he's comfortable in. Let him run an offense that works with his skill set. That's simple.
Alex, should the Patriots draft a punter this year?
They might need to.
Yeah.
Troy Terry's really good out of Iowa. There's the kid whose name I'm blanking on out of Tulsa who had a 91-yard punt last week. They might need to. They do need to draft a kicker. I don't like. I'm so not draft, but like bring in. It can be a UDFA. They need to have somebody ready to go behind Nick Folk. Nick Folk's been amazing, but man, he's 37. It's a fickle business. We're gonna do special teams talk during the draft, both kicker and punter. Don't you worry. That's gonna be a conversation.
Someone continues to ask and they want your opinion on it. And yeah, here it is. They've asked this like 15 times. Jerry Jeudy, the Patriots, Alex. What are your thoughts on it?
Oh, I mean, that'd be great. I would be excellent. I'm a huge Jerry Jeudy guy. I'm on record as saying I thought he would be the best receiver out of Alabama in Nick Saban's tenure. And I know that Julio Jones played for Nick Saban. I really think highly of Jerry Jeudy. And he's spent, unfortunately, the beginning part of his career in a horrible situation.
Yep.
Patriots a better situation right now? Not by much. That'd be great. I don't know what it would take to get him. Probably a lot. I don't know the Patriots are willing to give that up right now. When he's a free agent in a couple of years, absolutely make the call. 1,000,000%. I will be pounding the table for that. But until then, it's just a pipe dream for me.
Okay, really quick last one because we got to get moving here. We're going to get into a Boston Sports Minute, but this was originally going to be in the College Football Minute that we ended up canning. Will Bama make the finals? I was going to do a let's redo our top 4 7 weeks in. I think that Bama has a chance here if they can just win out and win the games they win, which I think they probably will. What say you?
SEC champion Bama gets into the playoff.
Yeah.
So that means they have to beat Ole Miss this week. Or sorry, they have to beat LSU they play LSU and Ole Miss the next 2 weeks. I forget what order it is. Those are the 3-1 win teams in the SEC West. If they win those 2 games, they're in the conference championship. They get a shot to either play Tennessee again or play probably number 1 Georgia. That win puts them in. If they lose one more game, maybe if they lose in the SEC championship to an unbeaten team, whether that's Tennessee or Georgia, if they lose in the SEC championship to an unbeaten team and things go ass up in the Pac-12 and things go ass up in the Big 12, then maybe. But I think they need to win the SEC to do it. That being said, Can they do it? Yeah, I think they can. I think they can beat Ole Miss. They can beat LSU. I like them again against Tennessee. And honestly, I don't know about this Georgia team. That Missouri game was, don't get me wrong, like they're excellent. They're a great team. But that when we're talking about like the number 1 team in the country, if I had to do my rankings right now, I'd have Tennessee number 1. I would. I just think they're
playing good ball.
Georgia, and I know the scores maybe don't reflect it as much. Georgia's had some slow starts this year. Georgia's had a couple minutes where like you kind of see that national championship hangover sitting there. Tennessee's just pedal to the metal, man. That team is fun to watch. So
I also don't trust Stetson Bennett like I do Hooker and Stroud.
Of course. So if Alabama's one loss is to a Tennessee team that they then came back and beat as the number 1 ranked team in the SEC championship, it's kind of hard not to put them in, right? That's basically what happened last year with Georgia. So I think they will, but I just hope I'm done with Georgia. Like, great story, great team, ton of talent, all that. Been there, done that. I want Alabama, Tennessee. I want that rematch, whether it's in the SEC championship, whether it's in the college football playoff. I want another Alabama, Tennessee game because that game was awesome.
I'm also a huge Bryce Young guy, so I want to see him win an Natty because he didn't last year.
Okay, fair.
So that's that for Q&A. That's that for Patriots Jets. But we have some breaking-ish Bruins news today. So let's change the back. Let's change the backer here. Did I say this tonight? I meant this morning.
You said this morning. I was gonna.
Oh yeah. Okay. Brad Marchand is back for the Boston Bruins after off-season hip surgery. Was expected to be out till like the middle to end of November. I think earlier this week, Jim Montgomery had said that it was going to be closer to Thanksgiving, and then all of a sudden he comes out today and says Marchand's back. The Bruins are rolling. They're 6-1. They're the best team in hockey right now. It's early, but they're playing really solid. I think Linus Ullmark is undefeated in starts. Swayman was the one. Swayman kind of
Swayman lost the one game.
Yeah, but he's starting tonight against Detroit, who's in town. But what do you think of Marchand back? I mean, it's a good sign that he's back and healthy, but are they rushing him back too quick on a team that's already kind of rolling?
Yeah, and one assist already, by the way. The Bruins are up 1-0. I'm a little worried about it. Like, why they didn't need to bring him back right now? They didn't, and it's hip surgery, man. Like, you're not playing around with that. So I'm sure he wanted to get back out there. I'm sure he gave his pitch to the team doctor, but we'll see. My whole takeaway coming away from that last game was, they're going to be able to just kind of ease these guys back in, Marchand and McAvoy, and nice, easy landing, all that. Nope, Marchand's back. So maybe he's good. He's good. I mean, why not play him? But I'm not a doctor. I don't know. I just hope they didn't. I just hope they didn't rush him back for sure.
Hips are tough, like especially in hockey. I mean, you're skating around. It's different muscles. I mean, I feel like hips and hip replacements. I know it wasn't a replacement, but like I think it was a torn labrum or something. But I mean, I don't want to mess with a hip. And a guy like Marchand, who's already getting up there in age, who's going to be directly in the fold of this Bruins team down the stretch, or so you'd want him to be. If they were 2-4 to start the year and you needed a kick in the ass,
it's
really
a lot different.
I mean, do it. But they were scoring goals anyway. So, I mean, again, good to see him back. It clearly means he was ahead of schedule and his body healed. But I don't know. I hope they don't do the same thing with McAvoy because, again, they're playing solid hockey right now, and they didn't really need a change up. But, I mean, good for Marchand. I bet the Bruins today to win the Stanley Cup at 20-1. I do it to myself every year. They always disappoint me, but there was too much buzz around the team that I had to put in the ticket. So we'll see what happens there. But anything else Boston sports wise? Celtics are rolling too. And there's some Devers news. Devers could potentially be re-signing, I guess.
Or he just got a birthday cake. Who knows? Yeah, well, I'll be honest. I've been so locked in with this quarterback thing.
Right.
Like, I know there was a Grant Williams suspension that was questionable. There's the Rafael Devers birthday cake saga. I'm actually, it's on my schedule tomorrow when I get home from the stadium. As Mac Jones, like say, Hayes in the barn at that point. That's when I'm going to catch up on the rest of the week in Boston sports. But Rafael Devers nominated for a Silver Slugger seems like the kind of guy you pay. So birthday cakes for everybody.
Yeah, I mean, they need to lock that guy up. That's the one. It's like Mookie Betts was one thing, and it killed me. But if they don't re-sign Rafi Devers and keep him here long term, then I'm officially rescinding my sports fanship for the Red Sox, because that would do it for me. But looks like there's some progress there on that front. And yeah, like you said, Joe Mazzulla got the boot on Monday night when we were at Foxborough, which I kind of just saw on Twitter. I didn't see anything about it, but backing up his guy Tatum. So they seem to be gelling. Celtics are rolling. The Grant Williams suspension's interesting, but all seems well in Boston sports right now, aside from the Patriots, which is not really like we're used to seeing.
Yeah.
So let's get back into our normal digs on Patriots beat, because we're gonna wrap up now. We went a long time. We're at an hour and 10. So obviously good conversation here. Patriots play the Jets this weekend on Sunday at the Meadowlands. Alex, you gonna be there?
No.
Okay.
No, I usually travel for this game, but I'll be honest, man. MetLife sucks.
Yeah.
It's the press box at a bad angle. You're getting baked in the sun. It's impossible to navigate. It's like an 8-hour ride home with the train. I know I'm complaining about covering a football game, but it's honestly, it's like harder to cover there than it is in other stadiums. It's just so rough.
Yeah, follow us on Twitter for couch coverage. Me and Alex at Mike Kadlick and at Real Alex Barth for Patriots vs. Jets, kicking off at 1 p.m. on Sunday. We gave you all the goods in this pod, so give it a listen. And that's it. Follow Alex on Twitter. Like I said, I Real Alex Barth. Read his stuff on the 95 The Sports Hub. Same with me on CLNS. We'll be back next week to do some probably trade deadline talk on Tuesday, as the deadline's at 4 p.m. on Tuesday. So we'll break down Pat's Jets and kind of go from there as the Patriots continue on this slow grind towards the end. So again, have a good one. Thanks for watching.